I just wanted to ask you a question about, I'm a big fan of Robert Cialdini's work as well. The marriage of his work with conversational hypnosis. In other words, if you keep it within his research, the 6 automatic responses from the old part of the brain, to me that's called bypassing the critical factor. And as long as you look for those social proof, reciprocity, authority, commitment and consistency, power words.
Let's do this very quickly. We have the 16 reciprocity, we've got commitment, we have social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity, of course.
Right. So the liking and the authority is covered off with the H plus and the
exactly. We dealt
gaze.
this with the idea of how you present yourself in terms of your nonverbal mannerisms. Are you more in the alpha male direction, that sort of stuff? The liking, we've taken care with the H plus and the hypnotic rapport. Social proof, you can take care of with things like demonstrations. Why? Even in a therapy session, why would Erickson get someone's arm to levitate up into the air?
Right.
It's proof, right? What if someone has this amazing thing and says, you got to go see this doctor? It's proof again. It's built into the whole model. What are we doing right now? We're talking about an ethical model of influencing where you literally will send people away if you cannot give them what they want or need, right? Again, that lifts your social proof, which means over time, your reputation, your social proof becomes stronger for you. Commitment. Do anyone hear any elements of commitment in what we just did? So you're looking for X, Y, and Z, and that's everything, yes? Absolutely. So if you have X, Y, and Z, if you saw X, Y, and Z on the street right now, you would buy it on the spot. Is that right? I don't know. What's missing? I have to shop around. What would that do for you? Well, it'll make me feel like I haven't been taken advantage of. Great. So if there's a way that we can, if you had X, Y, and Z, and you're not being taken advantage of, and you absolutely know it, you would get that on the street, on the spot. Is that right? Yes. Check. Now all you have to do is be able to fulfill all your promises. Make sense? These two here are a little bit, well, we haven't really built them into the model so much, although they're useful. Reciprocity, basically I do something for you, you'll do something for me, right? Is the essence of it. It's the essence of how societies work as well, right? So that's part of what we do in terms of ethical sales by sending people away or taking the time out to actually understand them. Who here felt good when someone sold to your values, listened to your values, what you actually want, and tried to actually fit in, was respectful enough of you to fit what they have into what you want and how you feel, rather than just giving you whatever it is they can knock off and quickly sell out. There is a kind of reciprocity in there because they're now in it for you. Let me give you an example of this in real life and in a study, right? You know, of course, at restaurants when they bring the check, they bring a little mint or a little candy alongside with it. Is that right? Everyone have experience like that? Do you know why they do it? It's reciprocity. If they give you a candy, we're more likely to tip better, and actually that's pretty much proven. Imagine a restaurant in 4 sections. Section 1, when the check comes, nothing. You just get the check and that's it. On table 2, you'll get a check. When you get the check, you get a little candy as well. On table 3, you get a check and you get 2 candies, so double whammy, right? On table number 4, you get the check and a candy. Only this time, the waiter starts to leave. Just as he's leaving, it's kind of like he mentally shrugs himself, smiles at you, and it's like he's thinking, what the hell? Puts another candy on, winks, and walks off. Right? A non-sexual wink. Which table do you think got the fewest tips? Table 1, absolutely. Of the rest of the tables, which one do you think was the next to lowest on the scale? Table 2. Next? Right. Actually, tables 2 and table 3 were virtually identical. Table 3 was barely more than table 2. Table 4, on the other hand, had a massive change in terms of uplift in the average tip to tables 1 and 2. Why? The reciprocity was more personal. It wasn't an automatic thing. It's now about you as an individual. When you're spending time getting through to people's values this way and really listening and matching what you can offer to what they actually want and need, is that personal? Do you think you've switched that on? Would that be fair to say? Scarcity, that's another one. We can build that in. We'll talk a little bit more as we go along. Essentially, if people like most the things they can't get hold of, right? As soon as you hear you can't get it, you'll want it more. Now, I'd never use that, of course, would I? But if you want to really know how to use it properly, you better come back tomorrow. So as soon as you're denied it, it becomes more valuable. That's essentially what it is. So you can see that most of these principles have already been built in to what you're doing. It's just I'd rather do it invisibly, so it's just a natural part of what you do, than talk about this too intellectually, because then you start thinking about it more than doing it. Does that help you?
Right. So what the big aha for me here is that with the drivers, which are these universal things that people desire, and you marry it with these components here, where the responses are automatic.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time, I think I understand what conversational hypnosis is in terms of keeping it in the automatic area of the brain and not through the neocortex part of the brain.
Exactly.
And it's not about relaxation. It's about
No.
keeping the critical thinking part out of it by keeping it in the area that the brain actually loves. It doesn't
Yes.
want to think.
Yes.
Just give me the stuff that's easy for me to process, and I'll do it all day long.
And we'll throw a couple more models that will make that easier for you as we go through. It's just for the moment, we want to keep it at a place that we can conceptualize, and then the next thing will make it a little bit more interesting. But thank you.
What was that person's name?
Cialdini, CIA, like the CIA, I guess. Ldini. Cialdini, Robert. Go ahead.
And I'm very glad, Alex, right, brought this up, because at the moment where we had this scenario where it came down to price,
Mhm.
you know, the person doesn't want to spend any more than they absolutely have
Right.
to. And we've gotten, meanwhile, we went through the so-called trouble of eliciting their values.
Mhm.
And we said if it was X, Y, and Z, you can do this. And then it comes, it surfaces that it's X, Y, Z, and A prime.
Right?
Right? And A prime in this case is price. And what we were trying to do is, or maybe we did for a while, is bypass the critical factor with X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
However, if price now comes up to the foreground, the critical factor essentially is re-engaged, isn't it?
It may be, unless you utilize it. What happens when you're doing an induction and someone suddenly opens their eyes? Do you say, "Oh, Christ, I messed up, I'm really sorry, let's start again"? Or do you say, "That's right"? And with your eyes open, you can go into even deeper trance, can you not? Right? If they say, "Is there something else going on?" And then you go, "Well, what's that?" "Well, I want to look at other places." "What's that? You know, what is it, other places?" "Well, it's price." "That's right." Because price really is important to you, isn't it? Yes. Price really is important to you. And, you know, it's important to me that we found that. Right? I really want to make sure we check, because it usually is important to people. And I'd feel terrible if you end up getting this car and we didn't take care of absolutely everything you wanted. So thank you for bringing that up.
Because I was thinking of price as like a proxy for risk in
I
general.
want some more wows, because that's kind of pretty impressive, wasn't it? Thank you. That's the utilization principle, and I apologize.
I understand that.
My ego needed that. Carry on, please.
Surely. I was thinking price in this instance is maybe a proxy for risk in general, right?
Exactly. So don't confuse. When they say price, it's actually often not about price. It's about something else. In this case, it could be about risk. It could be about being taken advantage of. So it could be about status or self-esteem. It could be about trust and all these sort of things. So as I was saying to Eric earlier on, the other Eric,
Right.
Oftentimes the things that come disguised as price, and they even think it's price, because remember, we're rationalizing how we feel, but it has nothing to do with price. Let me put it this way. Has anyone here ever overpaid for something that you know you can get cheaper somewhere else, but you're actually quite happy you paid extra because there was something else there, like there was more reliability, or you trust the person more, or they're nicer, or they look after you if something goes wrong? Convenience and all that sort of stuff. So price is not really the bottom line that people make out that it is. Right? Well, you say that it's not for cars, but it's not necessarily true. There is so many things that happen to buy a car. Let's put it this way. Who here would buy a cheap car at $500 less, or one you know will not blow up when you're on the freeway? Which one would rather have the one pay $500 extra and not get blown up on the freeway? Right? Price is not the objection here, right? It's something else. And by the way, I'm not trying to change your mind on this. You're welcome to believe what you want. It's just in my experience, you can get through the whole price objection relatively easily, right? Most of the time. The thing, though, is if you believe price will be an objection, that's called a Pygmalion effect. Remember the kids whose teachers believe they're going to do well or do poorly? Guess what those teachers got? So I invite you to consider a world in which price is not the most important thing. It is sometimes, and you will find it by testing for value, right?
Yep.
But it will not always be the case. And I would offer to you the possibility that it's usually not the case as long as it's within a range. In other words, if you're buying a Ford, as long as it's under, let's say, the $10,000 range, then you're okay. If the car you're offering them is $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, you might be outside of the price range, which is a very different kettle of fish at that point, right? If we're talking about $100 saved here or $20 saved there, there will be other things that will be more important that they were willing to pay the extra $200 for to have those. Make sense? Do you see how that works? And you don't have to believe me, folks. I mean, I'm only offering you my experiences and what you want. That's it. You have to go out there and test it. All I can say is the mindset that you carry into it will absolutely make a difference.
So I was thinking, okay, if price is a proxy for risk,
Come up?
risk can be addressed in terms of value. So, like
Absolutely.
you were saying, you know, the example you said was, would you pay $500 more for a vehicle that won't blow up on the highway?
Right.
And I was thinking of, okay, it could get to the point where you have to really get into the weeds about, okay, the guy across town has a guarantee or a warranty that's a year and a half. We'll give you an extra 6 months for the same outlay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it comes down to these kinds of
It can
minutia,
do.
right?
It can do it, but sometimes it's not even about that. You remember, values are big things, and sometimes just like, gosh darn it, they like you, and
No,
they
well,
trust you.
there's a different meaning to the word value there. The value is, you know, how much are you getting for your money?
Yes, but that's one possible thing of what they want. It might just be that they like the interaction, right?
Right.
What if let's say that one of their drivers is tranquility, right? So look, we can do this easily, and we'll be chilled out, and it's no hassle, no paperwork. If there's a problem, bring it back, especially in the 6 months. We'll fix it. We're not going to cause any issues. It's going to be easy. Or, it's up to you. You can spend the next 2 weeks just fighting through the weeds, going to every single place to see if you can save yourself a couple of extra bucks, right? And honestly, then, you still don't know how well you can trust the person in that meeting, because you'll have to go through this whole rigmarole again. And what if you make a mistake and misjudge the person's character?
Right, so
Now-
I like how you're handling this, because it's still keeping the critical factor bypassed.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. You do not want to get into horse trading, which becomes an analytical process.
Which
You
is
do
where I
wanna keep
didn't
them
want to go,
happy.
but I couldn't think of what, like,
You do want to keep
how
them
else to
happy,
handle it.
absolutely, but you don't want to start horse trading. You don't want to start saying this versus that and making them think about these things critically. You want to give them their values. You want to fulfill on your promises. You want to give them enough reasons so they can feel good about it afterwards, so they can justify it to themselves. And you want to make sure that what you're offering, you're actually fulfilling your promises. In other words, you're not going to break your promise on what you've just done, right? So they can walk away, and it's an ethical thing. They can walk home and know, I have got this thing, and I'm happy about it. I knew the risks I was getting into. And by the way, you can tell people what's wrong with your product and still sell it. They will respect you more for saying, look, this car, let's take the car, for example. This model of car, honestly, over 80 miles an hour, it becomes a gas-guzzling freak. It'll eat up more fuel than you can probably put into it. So as long as you don't go over 80 miles an hour, you'll be fine, right? That honesty will get you massively more trust. And you know the old saying in marketing, if you can't justify it, then feature it. So if there's a problem that you can't hide or get rid of, then feature it, and people go, wow, at least I trust this person. Now they know what they're getting into. So it's not just a question of pulling the wool over someone's eyes. I really want to make sure that you guys don't believe or get the impression that this is about how to hoodwink people. It's not. So the critical factor bypass is to ease the decision-making process, not to switch off their mind to make them make a bad decision. Does that make sense?
yes.
Thank you. Coming up?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to elaborate. The cheap cars market, the people who buy cheaper used cars are not the richest people, and for
Sure.
them the price is really important, and you don't have really high margins. So the moment when you're actually convincing someone you may have the best car. The dealer down the road can sell his the equal car for 500 euros cheaper because it has 2 painted doors or whatever. And you will not explain it to him at this moment. He will simply will not understand it, especially if he doesn't notice it. So you will have the cheesy car salesman sell a car, preferably to him, and that person will never come back to either of you, but you lose in that case. It is often just the price.
Well, I guess I say, you're welcome to you have more experience in that. I've worked with people in the printing industry, for example, and there it's just about the price. It's paper, right? How much can paper be? But it's never just about the price. Why? They think, the people who come in will think it's about the price, because that's inside their mind. Remember we talked about what hidden frames are when they come in? They will come in with a hidden frame, perhaps. It's going to be $500 or whatever it is, and the extra $10, I'll go down the road for the $10. It's your job to change their values as you go through that process. Do you remember we talked about that, changing values? Right? Oh, you know, you say your values about a fast car and so on, but did you consider the safety element that has to come in with a fast car because this, that, and the other? If you haven't done that part of your job, you haven't re-educated them outside of the whole price thing. Let's face it, they will, even for a cheap car, they're going to have a budget, right? Even if it's a $500 and I can't spend over $500, they can still spend $500. The thing that's missing is, if all you do is take them at face value, they will run the program inside their mind. The purpose of what we did this afternoon is to find out what that program is, and if it needs tweaking, it'll be tweaked, it'll be changed. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that you're selling decent cars? Yes. Do you believe that your cars are better than the cars on the road, even though yours, you know, it might be $20 to $30, $100 more?
They are more or less equal.
They're more or less equal? So then why should someone come to you and not someone else? If you don't have an answer for that, then no wonder you can't sell it. Because if you, in your mind, are absolutely identical to the person down the road and the person down the road from that, you have nothing to distinguish yourself. So then I would invite you to find out something about what you have to offer that really is of value to people. And it can be in anything. It can be in how you treat the people. It can be in how you help them through the process of buying it with the government registrations, making it easier for them. It could be in the way you help them deal with problems after it's happened. So you have special deals or whatever it is to make it easier for them afterwards. It can be because you can throw in extra things that other people can't. There is nothing that cannot be changed in any industry at all. But if your mind is stuck in thinking, I am exactly the same as everyone else, there is nothing that you can sell. All you can do is hope for the best that someone lands in your place and that's it. Your job as a salesperson, specifically as a salesperson, is to find value and offer it in any way you can. And the minute your brain starts thinking about how can I add more value to this, you start rising above the pack and your success rates go through the roof. Why? Because no one else is doing that. If I can give you a personal example of this, if I may. Remember I told you guys I used to be an executive coach. I started when I was 27 years of age. My first client was 49. The average age is somewhere between 45 and 57 of my clients. I'm half their age. What do I have to offer? There are other coaches that have more business experience, more actual experience. There are people who've got better credentials in terms of PhDs and psychological degrees and so on. Why the hell would they come to me? Any ideas?
Because you're good.
So what if I'm good? They don't know that yet. I can say I'm good. So what? He's got a PhD. That makes him better. The difference is, it's in the ability for me to transfer into their mind that I have something of value to offer them they cannot get anywhere else. That's where the scarcity comes in. I can offer something that they cannot get anywhere else, for starters, and whatever preconceptions they had inside their mind, I can bring them out and I can change them. So the very things that I have are the very things that they need. And now, of course, I get the results. I have to fulfill my promises, right? It'd be no good if I persuade them to come and take a risk on me, and I'm so pathetic at the end of this thing that they have no change whatsoever and they wasted all their cash. Right? I mean, that's part of the past we're talking about. Is it making sense to you guys? So hopefully, you're beginning to get this whole feeling for this right now, that there is no industry, there is nothing where there's other human beings present, where you cannot distinguish yourself from other people in a way that makes you and what you have to offer more valuable. But it is a mindset. And if your mindset is that I'm exactly the same as everyone else, I offer to you the possibility that you have the wrong mindset. That a different mindset will make you wealthier and more successful than ever before. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? And by the way, you know what? If you don't want to take this on board, if you don't want to even experiment with it, you're welcome not to. It's your life, guys. Right? You come here for me to show you what it is that I do and what I believe. Take what you want, take what's useful, and the rest, feel free to ignore it. Is that useful to you guys?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Can I just take Gregory first, then you, and then we'll be overdue for a break? Go ahead. Do you want to come up here just so everyone can hear you? Sorry, Greg. I apologize. We'll be with you very much shortly.
Everything you've been saying can be summarized in 3 words
Which is?
in the marketing world, which is unique selling proposition.
Exactly. That's
Right.
exactly it.
And if you're having trouble figuring out what makes you different from the guy down the street, there are books on USP, but if you really want to take a shortcut, think of what people don't like about the guy down the street. And if you can say, I'm not that, that's the fastest way to get a USP.
Right. Seriously, amen to that. I think that deserves a round of applause. It's all about value, folks. It's what they value and what they should be valuing, and that creates more influence than is possible to even appreciate without actually having experienced it. Go ahead, Gregory. Sorry.
I like that.
Worth the wait?
USB. On the other end of the car spectrum, I bought a SL550.
Okay.
And
A Mercedes?
Yes.
Right.
Right here. So
Ooh,
anyway,
baby.
so here the thing is, the car had an advertised price, and I went down to Santa Monica, Simonson, and I looked at the car, the test drive, and the whole 9 bits. So I come back in with the salesman, and I said, the price is a little beyond me. I don't want to pay that. And I gave him an offer for what I wanted to pay. He says, well, I don't think so. Let me go to my sales manager.
Sure.
He went and he came back, and he gave me their counter offer. I didn't quite like that. All right. So then I had showed them my bank statement previously. So I said, well, I can't do this deal. And I got up out the chair and I started heading for the door.
Right.
The sales manager ran out the office and stopped me. And he took me back to the desk. We sat down. He started throwing in all this other stuff.
Right.
So he says, well, I'll give you the certified pre-owned Mercedes certification.
Right.
I'm unfamiliar with Mercedes. This is my first Mercedes. I said, well, what is that? He says, well, it adds an extra year to your warranty.
Right.
I thought I did a quick mental mind check. I go, okay.
That's worth something.
He said, I'll give it to you free because you have to buy it otherwise.
Right.
I said, okay. They did a few other things. Okay. I said, fine. The thing is what I wanted to address about, just for this example of purchasing a car, is that, number one, as far as that risk thing, as far as I'm concerned, that's way down on the list. Number one is I want to make sure I didn't get screwed over on the deal.
Right.
And that's what I want to address.
Right.
And those folks
Which
did
goes
that
back
with
to
me.
the values again. Remember, guys, the values will be different with every person. Now, in each industry, the values will be relatively similar. So I totally agree with you guys. Probably in the budget, second-hand car industry, price will be of significant importance. It doesn't mean that you're stuck with that, though. Does that make sense? The whole point is that that's the whole point of this. You can reframe things. They reframed you. You paid more for the car than you offered them, right? Ultimately. But you got other things.
Right. Actually, when I added all the other stuff that I added to with the low jack and the tinted windows.
Right.
Okay, I actually paid more than what they were asking, but the unit price of the car that they had asked for, I did pay less on that.
Right. But do you see how did you see the justification process going on here?
Justification. Yeah.
It's seriously, and I don't mean as a bad thing. It sounds like you got a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
The point is, he has enough stuff to rationalize paying more. More money came out of his pocket than he had originally intended, but he's got reasons to justify doing so. Does that make sense? Do you see where we're going with this? And you're happy with it, right?
I love it.
He loves it. He's happy with the deal. You've got more value out of it. So that's the whole point. You have more value, and therefore you're happy. You've had your value satisfied in terms of you haven't been screwed over. You got a good deal. You got good stuff out of it, and whatever else you're looking for, I don't know what it is. I'm sure your partner does. Those things have been satisfied too. And remember, this is from a bunch of salespeople that were not doing what you were doing. They were not getting inside his mind the way you were getting inside his mind. They were horse trading, essentially, which is more of an analytical process, which honestly kind of cheapens the whole interaction, in my opinion. And he still feels good because they did enough right to make him feel good. And you guys now have the capacity to do way more than that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Hopefully you're feeling pretty good about your skills right now because they are a very impressive skill set. And so impressive, I think you deserve a break. So let's be back here in 15 minutes.